Hello world, welcome back to the Pocket Gamer podcast with your hosts, me, Brian Baglow, and the Queen of the New Year, Peggy and Salz. Hello Peggy, how are you?
I am fine, Brian. Welcome yourself, a new show, and the topic, right? How can you not talk about AI, right? It is the topic. It polarizes the industry, or it excites it, depending on where you come from. Not everyone's using it yet, but everybody wants to know how, is what I've found out and heard a lot. So yes, this is it. How to harness the AI superpower. We've got two brilliant guests who do it, right? So first up, and maybe you raise your hand so we know who you are, we've got Bobbie Hollanders. He's head of sales and account management at Appier. That's a company that's not just talking about AI and riding the AI wave, but also helping marketers drive real results. And he'll be talking about that as well. And it just dawned on me, why would Matej have to hold up his hand? It just dawned on me, why would we do that? And then there's Matej Lančarič, creative strategist, who I like to call the mad scientist of data
Nice,
AI.
nice. That's a good one.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah,
Great
thank you.
to have you. So wonderful to have. Well, look at this, Brian. How can it not go well with these minds in the world? Yeah?
This is it. And I mean, for the people listening at home, you may or may not be able to tell whether this has all been AI generated, but we'll do the big reveal at the end.
Yeah, gotta ask some
welcome on board.
questions.
Welcome on board, guys. It's lovely to have you here, and we really appreciate you joining in. I'm one of these people who's more enthusiastic and excited and interested in AI than skeptical and scared. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Cool.
Very good.
Exciting to have a beer.
Yeah,
So
let's do it.
This is it. So there's a reason why we bring them together, right? I was looking, Matej, you've analyzed over 372 million creatives. First of all, is that real? Seriously?
No, of course no.
No, of course not.
Of course no. Come on, like it's a big number that I don't think that many creatives are alive, obviously. But I use big numbers as everybody.
Big numbers. Well, I actually believe you are the type of person who would go deep into the details.
Oh yeah.
I've known you for a while, even before now. I knew you way back when, Matej. So you are in your creative lab, my mad scientist that you are. Is it what you are harnessing, or is it becoming like your assistant, your Igor in running your experiments?
Well, I started with AI kind of UGC before it was cool a couple of years ago, when it was just talking heads and no emotions, no hands, nothing. Now we see AI UGC or AI people in the UGC type of creatives as walking on the street, in the car, in different positions. So it's quite evolved over time, and I use it almost every day, and by it meaning different tools to create creatives and produce videos, because I'm a UA manager, right? I don't know anything about motion design. Well, I kind of know, but still, motion design is not my primary skill. These days, I produce videos on my own, by myself, with the help of AI, in very short amount of time. So I don't need extra hands. I still have my own creative team of 10 motion designers, but they do their stuff and I do all of these experiments on my own. So yes, AI is becoming, I guess it became a very important part of my day-to-day job. Think about it in this way. One of my motion designers can create a video. If it's a easy video that can be done in a day, I do creatives within a couple of hours. It's not exactly the same creative concept, but I still can create a full video, which is taking over all the spend, and it's performing really well on Facebook, on TikTok, on different UA channels within hours. So here we are.
Yeah, here we are. And I read about the budget for that. We'll actually get to that in a moment. Yeah. That's a story in itself. Maybe a quick follow-up with you, Bobbie. I mean, yes, you also do this. We know that. We won't talk about your YouTube app. We'll talk about Appier. You're doing this there, and you're seeing it and viewing it as a growth catalyst. But what's the most disruptive potential you're seeing with AI in 2025?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of things are still like unknown because a lot of marketeers and UA managers are still figuring out what is the best way to do it. And I think there's around three groups. There's one group that's just completely doesn't want to use it and just want to do their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a middle group that's kind of testing around, but hasn't grasped the functionality of it and kind of then fades away from it. And then there's the third group that, as Matej also described, like is using it as an efficiency driver, right? Really making things faster, making things easier to do, but still staying in control, right? I think there's a lot of talk about AI becoming fully automated, that you don't have to do anything. That would be disruptive. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, right? There's a lot of mistakes that AI still makes, and you really have to use it as I would say a co-pilot, maybe, right? Co-pilot might even be stretching it, but the creative part has been well documented, and that has been great use. I think the disruptive side in UA is really that it starts being better at data analysis, right? Giving you better suggestions about what should you do, and take into account historical data, but also real-time data, and mixing that to give better predictive analysis. And that is what we're trying to do at Appier. As you mentioned, we're like originally a true AI company. We were an AI company before everybody called themselves an AI company. No disrespect to the others, but like we have the credentials of multiple awards in this segment.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure out like how can we be really incremental and not talk about AI, but let kind of the learnings of what AI is do the talking. So for us, it is really taking that next step in data analysis, campaign optimization, and really helping marketeers to scale that, right? Identify what are pockets of inventory or creative usages that you haven't figured out, that a machine can identify by learning faster than we can on a massive scale.
Mm-hmm.
Some amazing points there, Bobbie. And yeah, your point about using it as a co-pilot, I think, is very well made. It's one of those things that people seem to be sitting back and waiting to be told what this can do, or just waiting for it to take their jobs. But going out and actually chatting to these, LLMs and figuring out, why don't you ask them how they can help you?
Exactly.
And it just seems that doing so much of the grunt work, the data analytics, spotting the trends that it would take a really, really highly experienced analyst to do would be, number one for a lot of people. But I want to bring it back to your previous point, Matej, if I can. Your LinkedIn post about producing 15 UGC ads in under an hour, really caught my eye. Hopefully that's not one of those big numbers that we talked about earlier. But
it's actually a small number, but yeah, it can be even bigger.
15 is pretty decent,
Yeah. And at $7,
it's quite cheap.
Yeah. Okay.
That in itself. So alongside that kind of efficiency, how do you see AI transforming UA strategies, especially as we shift, as Bobbie was saying, from data driven to that kind of insight driven marketing?
Well, I think if you asked me this question 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I would say, it's another hype or trend, because I was also one of the people from the group one, which is like, AI, I don't care that much because it's not useful for me, because it was the times where you ran UA, especially like mainly on Facebook or Google, and it's not as efficient or as needed when you run big campaigns on Facebook or Google. But you go outside of Google and Facebook, and then suddenly it's a lot more work, and you need to be more efficient. And you have algorithms, which is not exactly as great as Facebook or Google. So you need to leverage the AI to make decisions, to get data, to just go there and be really I can do job for 5 people nowadays thanks to AI, which wasn't the case before. So let me ask Midjourney or ChatGPT or whoever, okay, you know what? This is what I do on a daily basis. How can I be better? It's like, you know what? Let me just give me your set of data points. I will help you with the data analysis, and you make the decision. That's the co-pilot right there. Hey, Midjourney, look, this is the best creative that I'm seeing being run on Facebook. Give me more variations. Or just, you know what, this is the creative, please write the prompt that I can actually create more of these easily. Just use different prompts. So now the UA manager's work, it's more about motion design, storytelling, and prompt engineering to be able to actually get the best possible output out of the AI itself. And this is going to be very, very, very important for all the UA managers out there.
Yeah, I think that exactly. It's asking the right questions, asking the right prompt, right? That is kind of where the development of most marketeers and UA managers, getting them from either box 1 to box 2 or box 3, is like learning how to not be scared of that replacing them, but actually enhancing it by being able to ask the right questions. And I think Matej describes that correct. 5 years ago, everybody was trying to get an install and get on top of the App Store. That was basically the strategy that maybe 10 years ago. Maybe I'm a little bit, but maybe 10 years ago. But yeah, and I think that the AI can help with all these different inputs and make it easier. But then you have to ask the right questions to get the right outcome, or else you will disregard it.
Which is really hard, by the way.
That is extremely hard. Yeah. It's extremely hard. Yeah, definitely. That's not something that you can do, because you have to take into account so many contexts. And I think that is something that AI still needs to improve. Like, what is the context out there that is important for your analysis? But if you allow it to learn based on asking good questions, and the tool itself that you're using, is able to learn from your question asking, then you can create something for yourself.
You can go to my website, and then there's this little pop-up, which is me basically, and it's called Matej AI. So I built it with my friend, feed that AI or the LLM agent with all my previous podcasts, blog posts, and everything. So you actually chat with me, but it's actually AI. It's almost the same. The cheeky tone, everything is there. It's seriously like people thought, like, hey, so I was talking to you, but you didn't really reply. It's like, yeah, well, because it's AI. So, and
wow,
this is one part, and then the other part, like, there's so many different tools. They're popping up like every day, and you can use and experiment with all the tools, and you will get very different outputs. So you need to find a way, okay, so maybe for this type of creative, I will use Runway or Clink, or I don't use ChatGPT, but I use, I don't know, Perplexity or whatever else.
Yeah.
I'm just making this up. But yeah, I think you can find the tool that is right for your workflow and just implement it there. And suddenly, life is way easier.
Yeah, and I think that you actually describe a very good point that people forget about AI is what database is the tool learning from, right? Like now we're talking about Matej's. It's awesome that you kind of distilled all your podcast knowledge, but if the tool doesn't have good access to a good database, then the responses that they're going to get are limited to that database, right? AI is not something that actually can scan the whole world. No, it scans the input from the database that it has. So that's also, I'm not sure, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but that's the conversation we have with marketeers as well. It's like, if you're only giving us this much data, right, we're not able to do anything with our AI because the database is really small, right? We need to have the best coverage possible to let it learn. And I think that's also a misconception that people have, that they understand that side of it, how much input it needs to be successful.
Yeah, Bobbie, because people still forget about how many events you need to send back to UA channels on a daily basis for algorithms to work properly. And that's the biggest problem. If you have a data set of 10 people, like how can it work? It's either amount of data or time. So you pick.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and the predictions are the same. Like when I talk to potential clients or existing clients, and they ask like, hey, do you need all my data? And of course, that is a very sensitive topic. But I use the analogy of market research, right? And Peggy, I used this before in an earlier chat. But if you want to identify what is the favorite color of a city, and you just ask 10 people in a street, you're going to get some color. If you ask the block, you're going to get some better color. But if you actually ask like 50% of the city, your input is going to be a great representation of the actual favorite color of the city, because the bigger your data size, the better the forecast is. And that's the same with algorithms. If they only have one event, all the other context doesn't matter. It doesn't learn from anything else but that.
Then it just becomes random.
So you got me onto two follow-up questions really quick. One is, since it's going to be so important to ask the right questions, to know the right prompts, Matej, do you think that UA teams are going to need to either hire this skill or be this skill? That's one. And for you, Bobbie, what is the right amount of data to be sharing to get a statistically significant and a strategically significant decision?
Well, I will start, Bobbie, because this is going to be very important from now on to the future in terms of the UA. Like, people need to learn this. You can hire externally, but then eventually, like, you will need to learn how to ask the right questions and how to write the prompts. It's like now is the time. Like, now people need to realize, okay, so I need to be able to write the creative brief, the storyboards, the basically the whole narrative for the creative, and then now I can actually build it by myself because of AI. And it's all going to be very important for the UA managers, because that separates the great UA manager and the mediocre UA manager. That's like almost like when IDFA happened. So now this is the next stage.
That is something we need to, I think, just think that through, Brian, what he just said. I mean, here we are, UA managers. Well, it's great for someone like you, Brian. You have to write the creative brief and do the storyboard. I mean, that's something that you do because you're very creative on the fringe, but not everyone is. You know, they started with data, and now they have to be artists. So skipping back to you, Bobbie, the data question, how much is enough? Is more better, or how much is better?
That's a good question. More is better, but again, too much is also not good, because then you don't want to overlearn on things that are not sufficient. So the first thing that when we onboard partners, we kind of ask them the question like, hey, have you already identified for your app or for your game, do you know what are key milestones for a user to kind of, progress as long as possible in the game, either for retention purposes or purchase purposes? And do you have an understanding what kind of events are aligning with that? If they have a good idea, that's great, right? And then we can identify if there's any additional events that they don't have seen before that actually align with these other events. And that's where you can scale, because that's something that you might not have focused on. Your buying behavior in your UA channels have not focused on, and that can actually be a white space where you can really push, because these users have an event that other partners are not necessarily focusing on, or your competitors are not focusing on. But giving it too much feedback can only work when the scale is big enough so that it can filter out the noise. Because if you have 100 installs per day, for example, and you give it too many different variations, then it becomes difficult again. If you have 1,000 installs per day, you can add more variations because the data has more clarity to learn, etc. So the scale that you are able to generate with your app, either organically or paid, kind of aligns with the amount of input I think you should give it. So I think the percentages depend a little bit on what type of game you have, but roughly we see between 1% to 5% of the key events are necessary to kind of start taking the next step in terms of learning, because I think the 1% to 5% rule is also like 1% to 5% of your users are going to be, at least in IAP driven games, are going to be responsible for most of your revenue. For ad revenue games, it can be different, but they're in 1% to 5% of the events are going to be key for your growth.
Go wide, but be discerning.
Yeah. I think you don't want to, right? It's when you're starting school, when you take one class, you start learning. But if you already took 20 classes, your mind will explode, right? And I think that is, you kind of have to go progress as you go. But yeah, like if you are having at that 100,000 scale, then there's a lot to be gained in buying efficiency and cost efficiency and understanding. Then you can actually look at beyond UA, right? You can really look at, okay, how can you grab this audience and make it work for a longer time by identifying different metrics. But your game also your app has to also be set up for that, right? The app has to have these key identifiers in the app. And I think that is difficult. A lot of times, some of the apps that we work with are super old, and the foundation is built, and then they don't have the opportunity to roll back all these things that we ask them to do. So I think a lot of app developers now is also going to be part. Okay, how can we do great data analysis along the road so that we can keep our lifetime of our app or game longer, because we have the right input. And I think that goes beyond UA, that goes into game development and goes into producers working with the UA managers to identify what is growing their apps right now.
You know what, we hear this so often on the podcast from guests, which is all of the disciplines are kind of blurring together and converging. Designers and developers now have to also be looking at monetization and hybrid monetization. The community managers have to be able to feed back into this, and data lies at the heart of it all. So it's a point really, really well made. But I want to stick with you for a moment, Bobbie. So right at the heart of it, for marketers who have not yet started their journey with AI or embraced the opportunities, what's the one big question they should be asking themselves before they go diving straight in?
I think what tasks are they dealing with that are mundane and are taking too long for getting them to their task that they really want to do, what they think is important, right? Because if you look at your day and you spend 5 hours a day going through Excel, identifying specific numbers, right? Can you outsource that? Right. I think use AI at the granular area, not to let them make decisions, but make your life easier. And then if that's working, you figure out, hey, I can ask them better questions to make them everything efficient. You go one level. Hey, can it also help me in identifying new ways of improving the tasks that I actually like? Right. And then if that kind of helps, then you can say, okay, let it challenge me. What should I be doing that I'm not doing? What am I missing? Right. And I think that's kind of how you can scale. Because if you want to go to the top level, those are the most complex questions. But if you go on the bottom level, you say, hey, can you look at this data set and can you identify a cohort of X amount of users that do this and that? And is Facebook working better than Google, right? I think those are the basic questions that you can help with. I think maybe Matej has more experience with it firsthand.
Look, this is a report I do every week. Get prepare a report and then put it on slides, very concise, very straight to the point, no Perfect. Fluff. There you go, and you have a deck in a few minutes. So these types of activities, because it's really annoying and you still need to do it and it takes a lot of time. So, and again, like you said, you can ask, hey, this is my day, I want to have more time. What can I do better? What can you help me with? And then there we go.
Yeah, perfect.
Just ask. That's the thing. Ask. I was talking about storytelling and briefs.
That's brilliant, Matej. You know that? Ask it.
Just because I wanted to get to the point where I said storytelling and creating brief is important. And I just went to the ChatGPT 2 days ago and said, look, I want to build a brief for this game. This is tell me who is the main audience for this game, because you can search web now. Then come up with a storyboard, step-by-step guidelines, act as a creative director, and for every scene, please build a prompt so I can build images out of it. Then prepare a prompt for image to video production. I had this in 10 minutes and I just had to stitch it together in different tools, and I have a video suddenly. So it's just, this is exactly what you can do.
I would say that's medium experience right there. I think that the example that you used about creating a report is perfect for people that are inexperienced.
Yes. Exactly.
And I think that second level that is more complex, because then you have to be able to answer those questions and think about the prompt and what you're asking. But that's a great stepping stone as a second or even third variant.
So my very good friend and my former teammate from Pixel Federation and then Superscale told me, look, you need to think about how you talk to ChatGPT as we are talking to each other. You really need to be having a discussion. Think about the ChatGPT, it's me, and we talk and we discuss different things UA. This is how we approach ChatGPT and AI. This is it.
Yeah,
that's very cool. I like
and
that.
I was also like, oh my God, this is so brilliant.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because you also see the limitations of where he stops understanding you and misses out the context, and then nice. That's a good one.
It takes it out of the realms of an app, and I think a lot of people are still seeing it as software. So the command line has to be absolute, has to be, programmatic. Having those contextual conversations can feel really weird, because let's be honest, it's a machine. but I think it's again a great point, and it can help encourage people just to have those conversations. I'm having a bit of a thing with Gemini right now. Nothing weird, but Gemini really seems to be liking all the stuff I'm doing in Scotland. So, I'm rolling with it.
Yeah.
Nice.
I gotta imagine what would happen, Matej, just thinking if you're having this conversation, just say to it like, amaze me, and then see what happens and share it with everybody, because that I think would be mind-blowing. Right?
That would be mind-blowing. There's also some crazy shit going on my Matej AI stuff, because I can read those discussions, and some people are just really, really weird, and those discussions, they can't see the light. They need to sit on my website. It's really, really weird. So there are two, it's a double-edged sword. Let's call it that.
Okay. All right. Gonna get back to something slightly serious here.
Okay.
Cost. Okay. Cost. At Appier, you're helping clients stretch their budget, Bobbie. So it's about achieving higher ROI using AI. I'll start with you asking for an example there, and then I'll go to you, Matej, asking the same question, what you're seeing, how you're seeing maybe the clients you work with, the studios you work with also achieve higher ROI using AI. We want to get an idea of framing those numbers to get people really excited about what they can achieve, and also some benchmarks, because we're sort of stabbing in the dark right now. So I'll start with you, Bobbie. What is it that they can achieve? Any examples?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because in our day-to-day we kind of refrain from talking about, hey, what we're doing is AI right now, right? That if we constantly keep saying that, then people are like, but what does that mean? And they want to see more. And so it's kind of a balance on how do we because we're a programmatic player, we're a managed service at what we do. So we have a real-time dashboard, people can see everything that's going on, but in the end, our team and our machine is doing all the work, right? So it's really about us showing like, hey, we have added this creative, or we added this inventory, and this came up by under analyzing your results from previous months, that we should push more on X and Y, and it has a 10 to 20% cost reduction, which allowed us to have a higher cost of lower cost per install, and with that a better return on investment. So we're actually, for 2025, this is one of our topics. How can we make it more visible for our partners that what we are doing on the back end comes from AI learnings? Not necessarily that we want to talk about AI, but that we want to show the power of our tool. But it's a fine line in giving too much visibility and sharing your secret sauce, and not giving enough, that people are like, yeah, because it's just been 20 people in your office just typing numbers all day. But mainly what we try to do is have a 10 to 20% cost reduction quarter over quarter. But it also goes hand in hand with what is the app developing into, right? There's the app doesn't go stable like this. It has different events. People leave the game, people churn after a certain time. So I think those things that we take into account, and also try to forecast in our conversations with our partners about what can they expect, and what can we expect about their app or game developing over next year. But it is definitely a difficult thing to visualize.
You said yourself, Bobbie, it's like a process. You're going to be as good, it's almost like AI, you're going to be as good as what I share with you.
Exactly. Yeah.
I ask you. So it's the same here at many levels.
Yeah. Before I go there, Bobbie, you need to just educate the industry, which is extremely hard. And even though you do this, 80% of people just won't understand anyway. So we are not there yet. But you still need to try and educate, because it's really hard topic to kind of understand. Also quite hard to calculate all like how AI can help, because it's like you said, it's very very much about making things efficient. But I can do the simple calculation like you mentioned before. So let's say one creative, roughly $7. Let's make it $10. Yeah, make it $10. Usually the benchmark for a creative that is produced by an agency, it's 1,000 or 1,200. So there is a very big difference. Of course, it's not exactly comparing apples to apples, but what it is all about. You produce fast creatives, and then you compare ROAS and the CPIs and the spend against these creatives. And suddenly you add these AI-driven creatives, they're getting the majority of the spend immediately, because people love to watch all of these because it's different, it's novel, and as soon as you watch it long enough, it gets better position in the auction because people care, people comment, all of the different things. So then it gets better CPIs thanks to this, and then eventually better ROAS afterwards. So just combine the cost per video, then if when I compare the, let's call the regular videos versus the AI driven videos that I've done, it was, I guess, 50% CPI reduction and almost triple ROAS in a week.
Wow.
And like exactly that's what I'm talking about. And then I started adding all of these new creatives that I just can't do with AI every other day, and all of them just started getting spent and better CPIs and also ultimately ROAS. The conversion, like the winner ratio, goes from 10% to 50%, and that's insane. That's insane.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So like this is like how to kind of calculate like how AI can kind of help with all of this.
Matej, you're the real deal, right? You have a tribe. It is real down to your brutally honest newsletter and everything going on over there, which instantly, congratulations on it. We're in 2025. It's going to be massive for you. But be brutally honest with us about the one thing studios consistently do wrong dealing with AI.
They think AI is gonna steal their jobs, and
All right.
it's. I mean, it's still we're still in this way of thinking. AI is gonna steal jobs of the motion designers and the developers and basically everybody, because that's the future. But it's not really. As soon as you start working with it, you know that it's going to actually help you and not the other way around. So that's the thing. People just need to understand, and people don't understand because they've never tried, because they're not pushed into trying anything with AI because, oh, you know what, this is my workflow, this is fine, I'm doing well. As soon as I said to my motion designers, like, guys, like, just start using AI now. It's the efficiency improved immediately. Again, like from 10 people team, we can do work for 20 motion designers. That is the efficiency. Like, you need to start yesterday. That's the thing.
Super good news. Super good news for small studios is what I'm hearing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
As I said, I can do work for 5 people. Not that I wasn't able to do it before, but now it's even like way more efficient. So yes, small people, small teams, definitely going to leverage this because they have to. How can you compete with big companies? You can't. And this is the ticket.
It's so odd because we run into people at all of the events and the shows that Peggy and I go to. You would think the games industry would be all about embracing new technologies, but we can be so resistant to emerging tech, from Web3 to AI. Don't even start me. I was cancelled last year because I linked to a story about an NFT that was doing something different. So I'm delighted that you guys came. But before we wrap up, because sadly we are going to have to close things off. It's been hugely insightful. It's been very inspiring. But before we close, I'm going to ask each of you. We'll start with you first, Bobbie. What excites you most about the potential of AI in the coming year in 2025?
That we still don't know what it's truly capable of, and I think that there's a lot of adoption, but as there becomes more adoption, the tools become better, the database becomes better. So I think, like, if you look at the growth from 23 to 2024, it's already been crazy. And in 2025, we'll see things that we didn't think about at the end in the beginning of the year. So I think that's what I love about working in tech or in media, is that it's one of the fastest changes industries, and things that you already, like the NFT example, right? Like that blew up and now it's not at the same level anymore. I don't want to disregard it, but like there's going to be something like that's going to pop up, and
of course,
it might be part of AI, it might not be, or it might completely challenge AI. So I think that's what excites me the most. I love to explore, and I love to step into rooms and not know what's going to happen. And I think that's going to happen in 25.
Beautiful. Thank you. Matej?
Well, I've been talking about the creative and AI production quite a lot, so I'm very excited about where the video AI is at the moment and how can it evolve in this year, because it's going to be exponential. It's already miles ahead of where it was 2 months ago. Now every week there's a new tool, new update of the model they're using, and it's so much better. The Google AI VO2, I mean, obviously they had, like you said, Bobbie, like shit ton of inventory and data because of YouTube, so they could learn. And that output is just insanely good. You won't be able to recognize, is it AI or is it actually produced by real people? And we are now at the point where we see 10-second videos being able to be produced by AI. I believe if we can get to 30-second videos in summer, we can get definitely above 1 minute at the end of the year. And if this happens, it's going to be just really, really insane. Beautiful. There you go.
Nice.
That's
beautiful.
I like it.
I was just thinking out loud, though, because, you have, of course, 2.5 Gamers, and we know from our wrap for Spotify that it sounds like a podcast. I wonder, do we get longer breaks, Matej and Brian, or do we have an issue?
Well,
it depends entirely on how we want to use it and implement it, Peggy.
Yeah.
I feel the AI
have a little break in August, so I won't even tell. Who knows what will happen?
It's just keep an eye open, folks. So if it's listed with Brian and Peggy as PEGGAI, you know that we've made the change.
Nice.
We have made that shift. So yes, we are at the close, but Brian, we have to stay traditional, even though it's all about AI, our tradition. We have ended it like this now. This is our second year going, co-hosting together. Let's do it. Let's wrap it with the question that brings us into the inner workings of our guests, right? We dig into...
Yes, let's bring it back to what's really important. So guys, thank you so much. It has been joyful. It's been interesting. It's been challenging, provoking in a lot of ways, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it. But before we let you go, we have a question we ask all of our guests, or two questions, I should say. First is, what are you playing right now? What's obsessing you? What are you maybe spending time with when you should be, prompt engineering? And secondly, favorite game of all time. Matej, let's come to you first if we can.
Favorite game of all time would be Counter-Strike 1.6, which is an old-timer because I played it when I was young and actually got me into the gaming industry. And what I'm playing now, every week something else, because if you don't know, we are actually reviewing games on 2.5 Gamers every week, and it's we actually play them. So right now I played High Seas Hero, which was launched by Century Games recently, and I played Color Block Jam from Rollick, also Royal Kingdom, and all of the other games. So it's a lot. Every week, something else, basically.
Beautiful. Keeping it real. And Bobbie, how about yourself?
I have so many favorite games of all time, but if I can pick one, it would be Pokemon Red on my Game Boy. I think that is
nice.
I still remember myself in my last grade of middle school not forgetting completely about the performance we had to do because I was busy catching Mewtwo. And I think my favorite mobile game of all time is also then Pokemon Go. I've literally spent thousands of dollars in that game. I still play it a little bit right now, but my best experience with that was with my brother-in-law. We did not have a lot of shared interests, and he was not a gamer, but he played that game, and I still remember us going through like the biggest park in Amsterdam, getting all excited because there was a Pokemon far away, and we running together. And that memory, like that I think that was the power of mobile gaming really come to max level, where it stepped outside of the gaming space and allowed me to connect with other people. So I kept it very Pokemon heavy, but I think I would go with that.
Beautiful. It's what great choices.
Matej, it was a joy. I think, Brian, we have to find ways to get you back, Matej. Are you open to that? I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah.
we podcast all the time elsewhere.
Yeah.
Different here.
Absolutely.
This is a different world. This is more, it's more mellow.
We can do an edgy mashup.
I love it.
It's some sort of collaboration 12-inch dance remix. We'll make it happen.
We look at that. We look
Perfect.
at that at least once a quarter, Matej, and you bring some of your cool games with you, or just what you're doing with AI. And Bobbie, a joy to have you as well, because you were very genuine about what we can do with AI, what we can achieve with it, and I look forward to hearing more from Appier in 2025 as you come up with more of those approaches and benchmarks. I think they're very valuable to the industry right now.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
This show is all about how to do your job better, how to make an amazing game, how to market it, and you have a say. So if you have a story or know someone we need to shine a light on, then we would love to hear from you.
We want to hear from you. We want to reflect the reality of the mobile games market in all its wonderful complexity and strangeness. So if you have any suggestions for us, if you have any feedback for us, you can always get in touch. You can email us at podcast@pocketgamer.biz. You can find us on Twitter @PGBiz, and you can reach out to us through the pocketgamer.biz website. If you're interested in listening to all of our podcasts, you can find them at pocketgamer.biz/podcast, and we would love to hear your thoughts on future shows.
And we've got you covered on all the major platforms, so subscribe to the audio podcast, as Brian said. Look for us on YouTube. If you want to read it, hey, you can do that too, because we have a companion post for you as well on the pocketgamer.biz website.
Tune in again for the next edition of the pocketgamer.biz podcast, and we look forward to speaking to you in the near future. Until then, I'm Brian Baglow.
I'm Peggy and Salz, and that's a wrap until next week.